started. And thank you everyone again for joining us, and thank you very much, Syria, for the inaugural welcome for this year's season. Okay, so here is the slide that I said you could drop your clip art on. So if you still have your clip art ready, if not, go ahead and click on the bottom tool of your whiteboard strip and select an arrow, a happy face, whatever you'd like, and drop that on the map in approximately the location you are joining us from tonight. Those of you just joining us, hello, and thank you for coming. Okay, and give me a green check mark if you've already placed your icon on the screen. Okay, Nicole and Elizabeth, are you having any trouble? Perhaps not. Okay, Nicole's all good. And Elizabeth, I'm wondering if you're still having some issues. Not getting sound. Okay, all right, Elizabeth, I'll work with you. In the meantime, we're going to pass it back on over to Doug to take it away. All right, Doug, it's all yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Syria and Louise, for getting things set up here. Welcome, everybody. I was the smiley face in southwestern Ontario. I'm actually located in Amherstburg. It's right where the Detroit River meets the Lake Erie. It's kind of neat to see that everybody else was sort of from Toronto, Burlington, that sort of area. I'm not at home. I have really lousy internet access at home, and so I'm actually sitting in my daughter's place. It's a one-bedroom apartment over top of a building. She hasn't turned the heat on yet because she's working on saving money. And what else can I tell you about it? It's got really good internet access. So anyway, welcome this evening. Looking forward to spending some time going through and talking about Google. Hopefully everybody has an internet browser open, and rather than dwell on any particular topic for an extended period of time, I think what I'm going to do is just sort of go through a real potpourri and hopefully address something new for everybody, or give you some ideas that you might go back and use in the classroom or do whatever. When I give workshops, I always tell people that they come with a guarantee. And that guarantee is that you can contact me after the workshop. So if you try something and it just doesn't work, or you have some more questions or something like that, certainly drop me an email, and all that sort of stuff will be on the last slide of the presentation. So I called this presentation, Do You Google? My name is Doug Peterson. I am a retired classroom teacher and computer consultant for the Greater Essex County District School Board. That's the City of Windsor and the County of Essex, and so it covers towns like Leamington, Amherstburg, Essex, Bell River, and so on. When I was a computer consultant and a classroom teacher, I served on the OSAPAC committee, and so many of the titles that you'll see in your classroom, I had the honor of being on a committee to make decisions about what to license and what not to license. Great experience there. And over the last little while, I've been a sessional instructor at the University of Windsor, dealing with teacher candidates who are interested in teaching computer science, and that's been great. So anyway, that's a little bit about me, and we're ready to go. I have a little slideshow presentation that I'm going to go through and talk about it, and then periodically I'll actually flip over to my web browser and try some things live so that you can see exactly what it looks like. We won't do anything from beginning to end, but I hope to give you a flavor of what various concepts are so that you can go back and give it a shot a little bit later on. So had Louise not have her welcome up there, we would have had an opportunity to test our microphone, a little tongue tweezer over here, well, whatever. That will allow you to go through and test your microphone. So I'm just going to skip back to there. So When I talk about Google with people, the very first thing I say is you need to get yourself a Google account. And typically people say, why? I've got an account with the school board. Why would I want to have something else? And you know, it seems like a smart move at the very beginning. However, I'll tell you, the more you get into this stuff, you'll be so glad that you have a separate email account. Personally, I signed up for my Gmail account as soon as I got into this Google stuff. If you follow me, you'll know that I've done a lot of things under the name Doug Pete. And I really wanted to be Doug Pete on Google. However, when I got there, it was taken. So any advice I give people is go in, grab your name before you get started. But above and beyond that, your Google account will allow you to log into Google services. It will allow you to have settings that carry forward as you go from resource to resource to resource. And more importantly, everything is all sitting in one email box. I know with my old employer there was a limit to the amount of email that we could keep on the server. It was something like 30 megs. Well, Google will allow you to keep gigs and gigs and gigs of messages. You can store things forever. So there's just a whole lot of reasons why you'd want to go through there. The other thing, quite frankly, is I do have a number of different email accounts, and I'm forever dealing with spam. I really don't deal with spam when I'm working with Google. They've got a great spam filter. I can't speak highly enough for the email. So if you haven't got an account, grab it. If you've just got an account, explore with it. I think you're going to find that it's going to be absolutely wonderful. So step number one, get yourself a Gmail account or a Google account. Then, if you look around when you log in, the top, typically on Google services, it's in the top right-hand corner. There will be a little icon where you can click on your face and go down and edit your profile. And within your profile, there's just a ton of things that you can do, including looking after your privacy when you're on the web, taking a look at what Google does and everything that it can do, and directly take you to the sorts of things that you want to do with it, and including disconnecting some of the services that perhaps you don't want run. And to go through and take a look at all of them would be a whole session in itself, but just file away in the back of your mind that you don't always have to go with what Google gives you. You can certainly go through and customize it so that you get the most out of everything, and it's well worth the time. Sounds like a Google salesperson here, but I really recommend to people that take a look at getting yourself the Google Chrome browser. Unlike Safari, which is a Macintosh browser, or Internet Explorer, which is a Windows browser, the Google Chrome browser, which is based on the Chromium project, will allow you to run the same sort of interface, whether it's Windows, Macintosh, or Linux. And they all work the same. You can synchronize your browser between home and work, or one computer and another computer. You have a, what was that ding, Louise?
Joyce, do you have a question? Looks like you're typing something. There, do you see your message there in the chat?
Yes, I do. Okay. Well, you can do what you do at work and then install Chrome on your home computer, I guess. There may well come a time when browsers and all those sorts of things are evaluated, and they may take a second look at it. Maybe after tonight, when we see all the resources that are available here, you may be able to talk to the people in mind that, or people that could make those changes. I see that Karen is with us. Maybe she can pass that information along. Anyway, oh, Ross is in the note too. Okay, cool. So basically, I do everything now inside the Google Chrome browser. I have it on all of my computers, including my iPad and including my Android phone. It is absolutely wonderful. It's very quick. It's very powerful. The search is integrated right into the URL bar. And the nice thing I like about this, and I guess I got started doing this with Firefox, was the idea that you could add extensions to it so that you can take a basic browser and then customize it and customize it so that you can do things that are important to you. So for example, a little bit later on I'll talk about a URL shrinker. And one of the things that really increased my, this is distracting with all this stuff all over the place. Anyway, one of the things that really increased my productivity online was adding an ad blocker, so that when I go to a website, I'm not looking at advertisements all the time, taking up bandwidth and slowing things down. Also, when I get to a web page, I want to read it like I read it on a book, and so the Clearly extension was one of the things that I use. I was forever forgetting passwords, or heaven forbid, I got into the habit of using the same password on 2 different sites. Got rid of that by installing myself the LastPass extension, so that my computer keeps track of my passwords for me and fills them in as I get to a particular website. And the other one that I recommend very highly is an add-on called Ghostly, which does its best to have stop websites from tracking you as you go from site to site to site. And I know that people are becoming increasingly concerned with that sort of thing. So a number of different extensions that you can do, install within your browser. And I'm going to flip over here. Typically when you install them, you will see that they appear across the top of your toolbar. And just by clicking on a particular extension, it kicks in and does whatever it is that you need to do. If I could, thank you, Nicole. If I could recommend one, if you really get into this Google thing, there is an extension that you can add to your browser called the Black Menu. And when I click on it, it will pop out everything Google. So if I'm concerned with the different searches, I can do a search right through here for places, recipes, flights, maps, and so on. But maybe I'm interested in all things YouTube. Then come over here and it flies out YouTube search. If I flip over here and I'm interested in the news, I've got it right there. My Gmail, all of the important things right there. And so I'm not wandering around taking a look and wondering where my next location is going to go. This is right here, and everything about Google is right there. So absolutely wonderful extension. If you're looking for something to navigate your way through all things Google, can't recommend it highly enough. There was a question earlier about how do you know if you are doing a search versus going to a website. Well, the cool thing is in the results. If I come over here and I take a look at my address, if I was going to www.dougpeterson.ca, then that will take me to dougpeterson.ca, my particular website. If I was curious about Doug Peterson, I just type a name like that. You see that there's a space in there. There's no backslashes or HTTP stuff to indicate that it's a URL. I'll click on that, and that goes ahead and it does a Google search, and it comes through, and I'm well down the list over here, but you'll see that there is a Doug Peterson does wedding photography, somebody who made it into Wikipedia, not me, and so on. So both accessing websites and doing a search is bang, right in the same address bar. What it really does in the long term is it gives you more room on your screen for other things. Hopefully that makes sense. Let me go back over here to the presentation. So I can't recommend highly enough, get yourself a copy of the Google Chrome browser. You will never, ever, ever regret it. Things get so much faster. Okay, a couple of extensions that I think are kind of important. One is the Digo bookmarker. As I go through the web and I find resources, I like to tuck them away because a little bit later on I know I may want to come back to them, and so I have that extension right off the bat. If I find a website, just click on it and bang, it goes into my Digo account. Disconnect, kind of a nice extension. It stops people from tracking the web pages you go to. Related to that, another one called Do Not Track Plus. You can see I get this little paranoid of being on the internet. And I absolutely love the Evernote program, and there's a web clipper extension that you can pop into. And if you saw when I had my browser up, I actually have got a few more than that, but it's absolutely terrific. The only way to go. Okay, so when you think about Google, what do you think of? Well, typically you think of search. And Google does a magnificent job of indexing the entire world, or whatever it can find on the entire world. You type in a search query and Google goes ahead and it tries to find whatever it is that you're looking for. Does a terrific job. However, the more you use it, the more you may realize that, you know, there are better ways to find things. If I could just get it to do this or just get it to do that and so on. Yeah, I'm feeling lucky is, you know, obviously not something that we're interested in. However, wouldn't it be nice if we could make it better? And there's a couple of ways of making it better. First one, if you are interested, Google offers an online course to teach you how to be a power searcher. Okay, I love French geeky people. I took it this summer and actually got about halfway through it and then got involved in other things. Unfortunately, I let the course slide. They offered it again in September. I stuck to it and went through the entire course, and I learned so much about searching that I thought I was a pretty good Google user till I took this course. Then I realized there's just absolutely so much stuff that's out there. It sort of makes the I'm feeling lucky button look like a cruel joke on people. If you've got time to go through and take the course, get yourself a certificate, and become a great searcher in the process, take their course. Really, really good professional development experience. However, we can't devote the time that it takes to students to be able to teach them all to be power searchers, and yet we also can't afford to allow them to waste time online looking for things. And I read a report a couple of years ago that was really, I think, a sad telling about kids and computer usage, and that was that most kids find what they're looking for within the first 2 pages of Google results. And I remember thinking at the time, boy, these kids either are really, really smart or they're just compromising on the results. There's got to be a better way. And when I was with the Greater Essex Board, we actually made a decision and threw it out every time we did refresh on the images. And that was, we made the default search to go to the advanced search. And instead of just going to google.ca, go to google.ca/advanced_search, and you have the ability to add all kinds of controls over the types of resources that are returned to the students. So yeah, you would typically have a typical Google search that says find pages with all these words. However, yeah, we do want to talk about finding exact words or phrases, or we want to find particular words, or we don't want particular words, or we want numeric results that come through here. This is just part of a whole screen of options that you get when you decide to say, let's do an advanced search as opposed to just a straightforward Google search. And it made all the difference in the world. Teacher librarians just loved it. They were my biggest supporters as we rolled that out, because you get the results that you wanted as opposed to the results that you just might happen to come across. We put it on our web page. We call it the GEC DSB Student Reference Report, Student Reference Portal, and it was, welcome back Barb, it was the place where students went to first when they went ahead and do some search. Made a complete difference. Now, one of the issues when you search with Google is that it does its best to return the best of everything, and sometimes everything isn't what you want. Maybe you're doing a search for yourself, taking an AQ course or something like that, or your students are doing some research, and instead of getting the great unwashed web, what you want to do is really focus in on results that come back in a scholarly fashion, whether it's journals or professional articles and so on. Maybe you're interested in a little bit of help with bibliographies. You want some ideas about how to do citations and so on. Google Scholar has got you covered there. And just like regular Google search, there is a simple, straightforward scholar.google.com, which gives you everything, or there's also an advanced setting. And so you take the kids into an advanced Google Scholar search, and hopefully you can find some resources that are more immediately valuable and relevant to the particular article that they're for a particular topic that they're looking at. Okay, so just something as simple as this, I think, escapes a lot of people. They think I go to google.com, I type in something, and I take my chances. And sadly, I think a lot of people do that, and yet using the right tools and the right ideas, all of a sudden you become that much more productive. And I am kind of monitoring the chat over here for questions as they go along. Louise, please let me know if there's something really important that you think I need to address. Okay, Google Drive. If you are looking for something that will make you that much more productive right off the bat, then take a look at what Google Drive offers. It used to be called Google Docs. And if you take a look at this particular slide, you'll see that by clicking on the Create button, you can create a document, a presentation, a spreadsheet, a form, a drawing, or just to create a folder online. This presentation that I'm talking my way through this evening is done using Google Presentations. You probably are very familiar with working something like Microsoft PowerPoint or LibreOffice presentations and so on. Same notion over here. The biggest thing though is it's online, which means it's stored up in the cloud in a Google server somewhere. And secondly, you can invite people to work on the document with you. And that is just absolutely such a powerful, powerful concept. And then when you put all of this stuff together, you can publish it on the web and share the address to whatever it is that you're doing so that other people can enjoy it. Over on the right-hand side, I took a screen capture of some of the things, welcome back Barb, some of the things that I have on the go. Tonight's presentation, OTF Google presentation, that's it. If you were at the ECHO conference last week and you were walking up and down the exhibit hall and you saw the slideshow presentation that was ongoing, or if you saw the slideshow going on in the main, I think it was the Grand Richmond room before people came in, that was done as a slideshow that was just sitting there running. And I did it, sorry, I shouldn't say that. I started it, and I realized that I didn't have all of the parts of the puzzle, and so what I did was I shared it with the other members of the committee and asked them to come in and take a look at it. I made a copy of one so that we use this. I think this is on Thursday, and then a copy of a copy was a copy of the slideshow that we used on the Friday. And ever the paranoid, you don't want things to go wrong, I kept the original back over here for myself. So those are my most recent presentations. Down here are some of the recent documents. This is my opening remarks. If you were at the ECHO conference, at least triplicate, Louise. These are my opening remarks when I addressed the group. I sat in on Jamie Cassip's presentation. I used Google Drive to make myself some notes there. There are the notes for everything else. Unplug, I hope not. This was a blog post that I was writing in response to an article that appeared in a newspaper. And I interviewed Aviva Dunsiger, teacher in the Hamilton Wentworth District School Board, and I'll tell you in a second how I did that. And then Nora Young, those of you who are at ECHO, I think you were in for a real treat when she chaired the panel discussion on the Thursday and then did her keynote on Friday. She didn't go into that blind. We had an interview with her, and I kept notes on it. I shared the notes with her and asked her some of the things to talk about. She had never heard of the concept of a flipped classroom, and we went through and explained to her what it was all about. I thought she did a magnificent job. So back over here, there was a question from Tanya Lynn. Can you download the Google presentation? Absolutely. And how do you invite people to work online with you? From Nicole. Absolutely. Show you that in a second. So let me flip over here, and I'm going to go live. And here is my actual Google Drive. You can see that I pulled off a little bit of the menu over here, and here are some of the things that I talked about. And I'm an open book. You can take a look at everything that I do. Yes, Brian, there is a Google Summit. We'll talk about that towards the end. Great opportunity for Ontario educators. And in essence, everything that I do online. I pop it up as a document over there because I never know where I'm going to be. There used to be a time when I would have a backup sitting on a memory key, a backup sitting on a portable hard drive. Now I consider Google as my backup, as actually my primary document, and then I'll download everything from Google to pop into my local computer. Okay, so let me come over here and an interview with Aviva Dunziger. I don't know how many of you follow my blog, but I do try to write something every day. And one of the things that I did a couple of weeks ago was had a great interview with Aviva Dunziger. Like I said, teacher in Hamilton Wentworth. She's teaching grade 6 this year. She's previously taught grade 1. And I didn't drive to Hamilton. Too cheap to make a phone call. However, right in the budget is Google Docs. So what I did was I started a brand new document, and I typed first paragraph, which was sort of a lead in and setting the context for the post. There's my interview, my introductory remarks to Aviva, and then right after that, in the document, when it first went out, it looked like this. It just said Aviva, :, and she went ahead and filled in the response, which was, thanks for this incredible opportunity, Doug. Now, I want to point right up here, which I think is so crucial when you're working with kids. Every time I make a change to this document, because I'm connected to the internet, those changes are saved immediately to the particular document sitting in the Google Cloud. So I don't have to worry about going to file save and all that sort of stuff. It's done automatically. So back to the interview. This was part that I put in there. This was Aviva's response, and then I had a question. First, you made the Twitter change from grade 1 to Aviva Loca, What's your response? And I just left it to her, Aviva, and Aviva went in, and that was her particular response. And so the whole interview sort of went back and forth. I had some questions. She keyed in some answers and so on. We're both working in the same document. When it was all done, I did Control-A to copy everything, or select everything. Then I copied it, flipped over to my WordPress account, pasted it in there. Blog post was done. And I thought what I ended up with was a pretty amazing interview. We didn't have to sit down and be in the same place at the same time to do it, and it worked out really well. The other question that I noticed over here was, well, a couple of questions. First of all, how do you share this? Well, over here there's a little blue button, and when you click on it, it brings out a window and it says add the email addresses to anybody you want to share this document with. And I'm not going to do this live because I would give away Aviva's email address, and I don't know whether it's public or private, but just take my word for it. This opens up a little window. You just type in her email address and click on share, and bang, all of a sudden she will get an email address that, or an email message indicating that I've shared a document with her. It provides the link for it. She clicks on it and she's in there. There's a question over here. Can you share with someone without email? Ooh. I suppose you could. I've never actually tried that. And the reason why I'm humming and hawing over here is that they actually have to log into the document. And I don't want to say no, but I'm at the moment conceptually wondering how they would get into it, whether Google would actually let them come in and edit it. That's a really good question. Let me bail out here and say I'm not quite sure. The other question was, can I take it out of Google and put it on something? Well, absolutely. In this particular case, I just copied and pasted from the document into WordPress, and it became a blog post. If I want something a little bit more sophisticated, I can click on File, and there's a Download As option over here, and you can see I can download it as a DOCX. I can download it as an open document. an RTF, I could download it as a PDF, or if I really wanted to, I could download it as a web page. So there's all kinds of ideas about what I can do with it. While I'm at this, typically when you download it or you share it as a document, you do it with the idea that you might want to edit it later on. There is one other option, and that is I've got this document. Maybe I just want to put it out on the web, so I could publish it to the web. It gives me a unique URL, and I could give that URL to anybody. They could see the document published sort of like a web page type of thing. They, of course, wouldn't be able to go through and take a look at it. The other way of sharing it would be to email it to somebody as an attachment that comes across. Okay? That make any questions? If there are any questions about Google Documents, just pop it down here. Lots of TDSB questions. How do I get access to this? If you have a Google account and Google Drive is not blocked, there should be no reason why you can't start it right away. You can access it through AW. I'm not sure what that means. Okay, moving on. Next thing I wanted to share with you was the presentation that we had at the ECHO conference. And what we're doing here is we're looking live at one of the slideshows, and you can see that the layout is just like you would find with any particular presentation package. There's a slide. I can click down here. Here's another slide. And so I wanted to convey this information to people. How do I take a look at the conference planner? We really, really wanted to go electronic, so why wouldn't you use the cloud? So we go ahead and did that. John Seeley Brown was one of our keynote speakers, and I wanted to convey the idea that this is what he was talking about, this is what he looked like. Both of those are important things. And I want to just scroll down here. And there were two absolutely wonderful people on the committee who were in charge of the social events, and they had a couple of games with QR codes spread throughout the conference center. You had to scan it and solve a puzzle, and then they had different rules about when it had to be done by, how you had to submit it, and when the gifts or the winning gifts were given out and so on. I had no idea, but by making this document shareable with everybody, they came in. I just put in here Thursday special learning event, QR code scavenger hunt, and then I put a QR code in there. If you scan it, it just takes you to echo.org. But the gadget game was something that we played on the Thursday, and these were the rules of the game. And I had no idea doing this. However, I shared it with people that did know what was going on with it, and it worked out really, really well. Okay. So same type of concept. I could come up here if I'm interested about having it on my hard drive. I could come and I could download it as a PowerPoint file, a PDF file, a bunch of JPEGs, a bunch of PNGs, and it would appear on my computer. Or in this case, sort of the secrets behind the scenes at ECHO, we wanted to make sure that it was on all of the different display boards throughout the conference area. So what we did was we published the presentation to the web, and then we gave the URL to a couple of the guys who went around and old school typed it into a browser and had it running on the web. And we were able to having this running throughout the conference center. It worked out really, really well. So that's two of the documents types that we've got. We've got documents and we've got spreadsheets. Or sorry, we've got documents and we've got presentations. The third is, and I don't have it actually up and running here, the third is the concept of a forum. And let me see if I can find that forum. There we go, OTF survey. A couple of summers ago, we had the opportunity of working with the OTF folks in Toronto or in London, and what we wanted to do was have an evaluation form. And so my partner and I, this was actually one of the examples I did. Anyway, my partner and I wanted to create a survey, and so we popped it online, and we had people. Okay, thank you. And we had a bunch of people who had never done a Google form before, and so this was a little example that went ahead and did that. And having done that, that's not a very good example. So let me come over here, and I'm going to create for you a brand new form. And this will probably be just about as goofy as the one that was in there before, but hopefully you'll get the idea. So this is currently untitled, so I'm going to call this Doug's Demo. And maybe I'm interested in publishing this to the web, and I want people to enter your name. And I'm interested in the results. Well, the results could be a text result, a paragraph, a multiple choice, checkboxes, and so on. I'm going to call it text. This is an idea of what their answer would look like, and I want to make sure that everybody fills out that thing. So I'm going to make this a required question and click on Done. And I have my first question over here. Let me come over and I'll do a second question. And so maybe the question might be, rate this session. And I'm interested not necessarily in a text response. What I'm interested in is checkboxes. And so option number 1 might be poor. Option number 2 might be Midland. And option number 3 might be fantastic. And I could go through, and you'll see that every time I add an option in here, over here, Google Form allows me to go through and add more options to it. I can also make that a required question. Click on Done, and you can see that I'm starting to build myself a really nice form doing this sorts of thing. And if I'm interested, I can go ahead and add a different theme to it. Maybe I'm interested in this one, and it goes through and applies that particular theme to the form. I can publish that onto the web, and people just go ahead and complete it. And so this was actually the survey that I had open. I closed the tab just before we got in here. This was the survey that we used. And so we asked people, enter your name, how satisfied were your results. So this is a pull-down menu. What kind of computer do you have? So we went through there, how satisfied were you with the room? And that was a scale between satisfied and unsatisfied. And this was actually a whole session dealing with wikis, and we asked them to submit the URL for their wiki so that my partner and I could go through and take a look at and comment on it. And so we published this form on the web, and when it went live, people filled it out. The results come back into a spreadsheet form, and the results are kind of neat. So here's the first question. Here's your name. How satisfied were you? What kind of computer do you have? Da, 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 da. But more importantly over here, particularly if you're using this to collect data from kids, there is a timestamp. And so if the document or the survey had to be completed by midnight on November the 1st, you could get a timestamp over here telling you exactly when and what time it was that the survey was submitted. So let me just pause for a second over here. There were a couple of neat ideas of using Google Forms over here. I see Paula was talking about using it as KWL chart. Karen talked about diagnostics at the beginning of a unit. Great. Louise, we'll have to talk about my inability to use folders. That's okay. The exit survey today is in a Google form. Okay, so some great ideas over here. There was a question about how many people can be on at once. Paula had 30 on there once. I know that I used this was my university class, and we had 35 students in, all working on the same document at the same time, and certainly it wasn't pleasant. We just had all kinds of clowns in there messing around with the documents and so on. So the concept, I think, is that you need to have something that people are focused and working on, and it does work out incredibly well.
Doug, your mic might have gone off. Or no? Okay, guys, I think you can hear me. Doug's sound is just slowed down suddenly. We'll give him a moment to catch up. I think we lost Doug momentarily, everyone. Okay, I'm going to flip back to here. He will log on. I'm sure he's having a panic attack right now. But in the meantime, why don't you guys share in the chat? Yes, the application to sharing did stop because Doug's the one doing it, and it looks like he's been booted out of the room temporarily. His daughter's fantastic internet must have had a hiccup. In the meantime, everybody can enter in the chat, or actually, I think I have a blank page sitting around here. If you want to grab your text tool out of the toolbar at the left-hand side of the whiteboard and have a go at typing on the screen, you can let us know what you're thinking so far, if you have any other additional questions, or if there's a particular issue that Doug hasn't gotten to yet that you want to see that he covers. So you can type on the whiteboard, as a couple of you are doing, or you can use the chat. The letter A is the text function out of the whiteboard tools, and you'll find if you click on the little triangle in the corner, you'll have a pop-out option of just a large capital A by itself, and that is a little bit simpler to use on the whiteboard. I see your question there, is Google Drive similar to Dropbox? It is in a way. Dropbox does use the cloud. However, Dropbox at this time does not allow editing on the web. So Google Drive, however, stores your documents on the web. You edit them while they're on the web, and they are saved and maintained for you on the web so that you never have to download actual copies to your computer. Dropbox can hold all your documents and files up there, but if you want to make changes, you have to save them locally on your computer and then upload them back up again, unless you have some syncing options, and hopefully Dropbox will move towards that. So Google Drive keeps everything right there in the cloud, is accessible from any computer at any time, as long as you know your Google account login information. You will be able to get at everything. How secure in terms of people hacking into your account? Is that what you're asking there? I would say Google's probably one of the more secure ones out there. It's probably as secure as anything else that you trust out there on the internet. If your Gmail account, if you have one, has ever been hacked, there's always occurrences of that. I've had Google Drive and used Google Docs for a number of years. I've never had any issues with any of my documents online, and my own personal Gmail account has never been hacked either. In terms of saving something somewhere else, you could be like Doug and just save triplicate of it on the cloud. If you're concerned, then you can always save everything. The one question would be is if you have many, many files, like for example we saw with Doug, you would have to save them all individually and download them and save them to your computer, which could get a bit tedious. Unless I may not be speaking correctly, you might be able to save a whole folder. That should be something that we look up. I see, let's see. Nicole, if you want to type on the whiteboard with some questions, by all means do that. If you want to continue using the chat, you can do that too. We're certainly hopeful that many of you will join more OTF Connect sessions, and lots of other sessions do use the whiteboard, so if you want to practice your skills there right now, by all means do so. It is, oh, Barb's back. I do hope Doug is able to rejoin us. In the meantime, we'll keep going with your questions on the board here. Development of lessons collaboratively. Yes, development of lessons, you can certainly work with colleagues to do that using Google Docs. It is fantastic for collaboration because you can do it in real time. Two people in two completely different locations can be signed on to the same document and type and edit, and it does track who types what information and what changes there are. So it's very useful that way. You can see who has collaborated and who has contributed what. You can also do it, of course, with students. And a great example that I've heard many times is prior to a test, you set up a Google Doc to make a review sheet. All the students have access to it, and everybody types in all the things that they can think of that you need to know to study for the test, and by the time the kids go home at the end of class, everybody has an extremely detailed sheet where not any single person has had to do all the work, so it certainly evens the playing field at making sure that all your students have the same review sheet, including those that maybe didn't make such great notes throughout the unit. Students can definitely use it for group work, for that kind of thing. Projects, presentations, you can just imagine they can edit each other. Peer review, very useful for that. So a student can prepare a document and share it, and someone else can go in and do some reviewing. One of the interesting things, depending on how students' Google accounts are set up, some people, in terms of protecting privacy of students, they may assign, everybody has to have their own Google account. So even if a student has their own personal Google account, you would establish a new account for them that might be, their course name and just some code that you've assigned them, so that when they do share collaboratively, everybody can be anonymous, which has its pros and cons, and that's something for you to work out and decide. But sometimes students feel safer contributing when nobody knows who's doing the contributing. Let's see, is there anything else on here I'm missing? Sharing a spreadsheet, Ross. Can you restrict editing and viewing? Yes, absolutely. You can share it using email or using some of those other features that I very quickly looked up earlier. And you can set, if you're the one that created the document, you're the one who can enable the settings. I'm just going to grab mine up here so that I can take a quick peek at what the sharing settings are. You can change so that you can have it so that the document is public on the web, so if anyone can find it on the internet. Or you can set it so there's only people with the link can see it, or you can make it private so that only those people who you have provided permission to by sharing it with them directly or adding their email address to the list of collaborators. And then from your list of collaborators, you can choose to have them only view the document, that they can view and share the document, or that they can view, share, and edit the document. So you can control what level of participation they have. I see a question down there, how do you combine use of Academic Workspace with Google Docs? I'm not familiar with Academic Workspace, and it didn't sound like Doug was either, but is that like a learning platform that your particular board uses?
Could I jump in?
Yes, absolutely. Microphone's
Yeah,
great.
Academic Workspace is the platform that we use. It's the intranet, if you will, within the school board.
Mm-hmm.
All students have access to it. It's just a matter of getting them on there. And then Google Docs is part of the document collection that they have access to. The one nice thing about Academic Workspace, especially for the older students, is they have access to their home drive from Academic Workspace, so they can keep their documents at school but access it from home, so you don't have students emailing themselves back and forth between home and school, and you don't have them you're not worried about them carrying external drives and all of that sort of thing. So it's really great, and Google Docs is part of Academic Workspace, so the students can access it through there. It's just part of what's on Academic Workspace that the students can use.
Okay, I'm wondering whether or not TDSB then has a partnership with Google Google Education. I think the Ottawa District School Board, yes, you do. So yes, so Google has an entirely different sector that is especially for education, and so they partner with boards and enable boards to make all the usual Google stuff available but they have it with some increased privacy settings and a little bit more potential for, I guess, having it work with some of the other platforms that boards already use so that they're compatible and you don't run two different systems. So that's fantastic, and I think if you have any other information and you've already got a link on there, I guess people can go ahead and click on the link in the chat and learn a bit more about that. I know a lot of teachers are concerned about the if their school or their board has restrictions as to what website students can go to, how much access they have, how much storage space they have. So Google kind of helps solve a lot of that. I'm trying to think of some of the other issues. I think usually it's been okay. Has anyone else had any experience where they weren't able to access any of the Google stuff through their schools? Okay, we just got a notice from Doug that the power went out. Oh, poor Doug. He'll be feeling quite frantic, I'm sure. Okay, well hopefully he's going to be able to get that restored. In the meantime, you're kind of fortunate actually that I'm pretty familiar with Google Docs and all the other applications. You want your money back, we'll send it to you right away, Steve. Oh, thanks Karen for pointing that out, that the link there is the student or staff login as well. Oh, Syria's getting wandering around here. Okay, let's see. Can students print their work? Yes. In fact, I am going to go and double check on that in terms of how that option works. Let's see. So file. You know what I'm going to do, folks, to make this just a little bit easier for us is that I'm going to share my application, and I'm not as good at it as Doug is, so bear with me. Poor Barb gets bounced in and out of the session repeatedly. We feel your pain, Barb. Okay, no, it's Chrome. I would like to have Chrome open. And it's not going to let me share Chrome. How ironic is that? Let's start that again. All right, we will show View Explorer here. And I think I'm going to have to close a bunch of stuff. Oh no, you've got the black screen of death. This is very convenient. Syria is sitting actually next to me since I'm borrowing her internet in her kitchen. And so I can see what you see, which is nothing right now. All right. So that's not going to be helpful for us right now. So I am going to can that experience. Or wait, let me try this. Nope, nothing. Videos on using Google Docs. I am pretty sure that YouTube is awash with videos on all the various ways of using Google Docs. If anyone has got their browser open and wants to go grab a couple and drop those links in the chat box, then we'll have them there shared for posterity. Oh, Steve, you're offering to share things. That would be wonderful. So Steve has shared his email address there. And I'm thinking, if there hadn't been so many of you here tonight, we would have set up a doc that everybody had sharing privileges on. Syria has a wonderful suggestion here. Those of you that have some familiarity with using some of the Google, not just Google Docs, we're kind of stuck on Google Docs here now, but if you have something else and you'd like to put your hand up or jump on a microphone and share what your own experience has been using it, or what challenges you faced, or what you have found really worked well, please by all means do so. Yeah. And because of the popularity of tonight's session, and because nobody can learn as much as you'd like to learn about all the different Google tools in an hour and a half, we will have a part 2 of tonight's session that we'll schedule probably in the new year, unless Doug has some availability on. I think we have 1 or 2 available nights still before the season, as we call it, closes at the end of, or beginning of December, before the holiday crazies take over everyone's schedule. Let's see, presentations. Actually, that's an excellent point that someone did put up on the whiteboard. Lots of students don't always have access to a lot of the programs that kids might use through their PowerPoints and things like that. So Google really does kind of even the playing field a little bit, because it's all on the web and is available for them to use and to share, and they can access it from wherever they are. I'm very curious as to how much access public library computers might have. I think that they would be able to go and use those computers as well as ones in the school, and can work on things. Oh, Karen has shared a link with us there. I'm going to click on that. And here we are. Oh, cool. So what I'm going to do is, we have another option available to us, where I'm going to do a little web tour here. So in your whiteboard space, that link that Karen posted up, you should see that coming up. So that is the website that Karen shared, and Google Docs Essential Training. So in the web tour function of the Blackboard interface, now that that's up in your window, you have free reign to go ahead and click on any of the things that you're seeing in there. If you would like to go and view a couple of things, maybe come back with a question or a cool tip to share. We love you, Doug. You're back. Where are you? At Tim Hortons? He might not be all entirely engaged yet. That's just his alternate computer that's logged in. We'll give him a few minutes. One of the other things that I was going to ask is, I'm going to flip back to our whiteboard. Sorry, guys. If you were in that, I think I booted you out. I should have thought of that. So sorry. I've got a new page on the screen now. We'll see if, oh, Doug, the real Doug is here now. Hi, Doug. Oh, look at that. He's going to go right back where he was. Thank you, everyone, for your patience and sticking around while Doug dealt with power outages. Let's see if he's going to be able to grab a microphone and say hello. Thanks. All right, we see some major sound lag there for you, Doug. Doug, can you hear us? Thank you, Steve. We appreciate you refunding our refund. Okay, we don't hear you, Doug, so we're going to wait a couple minutes. Oh, he's in. Okay, he's checking the sound. It must have reset all his audio settings. Okay, in the meantime, we've still got a good 25 minutes left of the session, which is still a good chunk of time. So maybe if you have 1 or 2 major issues to do with any of the Google tools, anything else that we haven't got to yet. Maybe drop that in the chat and Doug will know where to go next. Doug, can you hear us now? Absolutely, Paula. That is always the case. The one thing that's reliable is that it's unpredictable. You can hear, but have you put on your mic and tried to speak yet, Doug? Working on the mic. Okay, you keep working on that. We've gone into a little bit more detail with Google Docs and sharing and some of the ways that you might use that with your students in the classroom. Yes, we probably will offer another version of this session so that you can catch up on anything that got delayed or missed, and it'll be a part 2. We'll be able to go into greater depth perhaps with some of those things. Yep. Go ahead, Syria.
If I'm going to check Doug's availability, and I know we have a few spots that we didn't fill. So if Doug would be willing and be free on certain evenings, we certainly will reschedule this one. And in addition, do phase 2. So I will check with Doug after the session, and we'll send you an email to let you know that way. And possibly what we can do in preparation for that session is really have a list of the specifics that you'd like to work with, because there are so many possibilities here that Doug could cover with you. So hope we can reschedule. Thank you.
Can you hear me now? Hello? Hello? Well, thank you, Karen. I'm sorry about that, folks. Boy, it's really bizarre when you're in the dark in a different place. How many people left?
Oh, I don't think we lost anyone except Barb, who was having her problems getting booted out anyway. So thank you, everyone.
Okay, my apologies, folks. But anyway, okay, let me pick up where I left off. Anyway, I was talking about Google Drive results coming back into a spreadsheet. Let's move on over here. I think I was talking about the fact that I use anecdotal comments all the time. However, if you're looking for a way of quantifying things, there is a terrific little utility called Flubberoo or Flubaroo. I don't know exactly how to pronounce it. However, it is a utility that will go through and help you mark the results from the Google survey. Kind of a neat concept. I did it a couple times just as proof of concept, and it does work as promised. So if you're looking for something interesting, Flubaroo, Flubberoo. Okay, let me buzz through here. So presentations, a little bit about Blogger. If you have always wanted to be a blogger, well, Google's got you covered there. They have a blogging utility. In the very beginning, my first blog was on Blogger. However, my old board blocked this thing, and so I had to move somewhere else, and that's how we ended up with my blog being on WordPress. However, I now use my Blogger as sort of a backup of the links that I read throughout the day. They appear in my Blogger blog, and so if you're interested in what kinds of links that I find of interest, you'll find them over there. Google Alerts. This, I think, is just genius. Have you ever wondered what people are saying about you on the web? I can imagine tomorrow. Well, the lights went out in Amherstburg. You can set Google Alerts. And so I have a number of different Google Alerts that are set. I have a alert set for Doug Peat. So anytime anybody anywhere on the internet mentions Doug Peat, I get a notification of it. If I have anybody anywhere who mentions my blog, I get a notification of it. And tomorrow's blog post, I'm going to talk about a whole bunch of bloggers that talked about Echo 12, and to find out where they were, what I did was I set a Google alert looking for Echo 12 all of those things came in, and it was a way for me to find out where all the blogs were without actually sitting down and going through and searching all over the place. Okay, might be something the Ontario Teachers Federation is interested in doing. Search for OTF, and anytime somebody mentions it, it comes in. A particular school, if you have a school or a school board and you want to find out what people are saying, set a Google alert, have it come to your mailbox. That's a really neat concept. Google Groups. Anybody who's ever taken an online course knows about forums, discussion groups, and so on. Same type of concept are set up through Google Groups. In this particular case, I'm a little bit of a hacker programmer with Google Maps, and so I follow their API discussion. The ACE, the Association for Computer Studies Educators, has got their own discussion group that's in there, and I was a member of the CS Consultants and Coordinators of Ontario. It's a private mailing list, and one at the bottom, yes, no cost. All you need to do is to join the particular group. If there's one you want to do to get right off the bat, I would suggest the Google Teacher Center. Wonderful place where people just pose questions about Google and the world sort of answers with them. It's great if you get stuck and you're wondering, where do I go, what do I do? That's a great group to be along in. My website, sites.google.com/life/DougPete. This is my website, my home on the internet, where I keep track of everything that I'm doing. And I was going to go through and show you how easy it was to edit a page, but I messed around with the last half hour of the recording, so I won't do that. Suffice it to say, this is an absolutely wonderful way to create a website, very easy to do that sort of thing. And actually, I do want to show one of the key parts about the Google website. My original website was all done using HTML editors and all that sort of nerdy stuff. When you work with a Google site, I'm going to edit the page over here. Please don't fail me now, Internet. The really powerful thing about dealing with Google Sites is when you click on the Insert button, look at all of the things that you've got one-click access to drop into your wiki or your website. You need a chart, you need a document, you need some text, you need a table of contents. All of those things are all built right into working in the environment. It is, without a doubt, one of the more powerful ways to build a presence for yourself, for your students, for your school on the web. And again, it's all free. Google Plus, relative newcomer on the scene. Google Plus is sort of a combination of Facebook and Twitter. It's a social networking environment with a real focus on security and privacy. And so you can have a wide open text stream, you can have a wide open resources and sharing and the whole bit. Brian asked a really good question. If it had come first, I don't think I would have a Facebook account. However, I do have a Facebook account, great way to stay in touch with my kids. They're only interested in one social networking area, and so they did that. It's kind of a shame because I think Google Plus is probably more powerful in some of their forward-looking things than Facebook is. However, they were late to the dance. I'm not sure that I would say that they're right now going to be a big player, especially going face-to-face with Facebook. Okay, a couple of things that really let you aware that Google has got a social conscience as well. I think we've all been inundated with the Hurricane Sandy that went through New Jersey and New York and so on, and I understand you folks around Toronto had it considerably worse over here in Toronto than I did back over here in Amherstburg. Look at the map in this particular drawing, we actually missed everything. And by going to the crisis map, they were able to use the mapping abilities that Google has built into it to track the hurricane and track the progress of it as it went through the northeast states. You'll see there's a whole bunch of little pins there. If you click on a particular pin, it lets you know what the information or what the barometric pressure, the rain, the wind, and all of that sort of stuff was at that particular point in time. It was kind of fascinating to sit back and click at it and take a look at it, and yet at the same time it was very humbling to think of all of the things that people went through. So right off the bat, I think it's kind of neat that they were able to step to the plate and come through with something like this so quickly and make it available to the world. I had indicated earlier that one of the groups that I follow is Formula One Racing, and Formula One Racing I find fascinating. It's a group that goes all over the world. No country has a race, more than one race in it, and I just get a kick out of taking a look at the racetrack before the next race comes along. And so just I do it using Google Earth, which is a terrific browsing utility that will anywhere that pictures have been taken on the web. And in this particular case, we're looking at Ile Notre Dame in Montreal, where the Grand Prix is run. And as long as I've been around computers, you sort of get a sense, well, I've got that, I nailed that, I understand that, and so on. When you take a look at something like that I could zoom in and take a look at, it really is kind of humbling. Give this to kids, they're absolutely fascinated by the things that they can go, the places that they go, what they can see, what they can do when they get there. Sort of related to that, I don't think there's a person out there that has not heard of Google Maps. It is certainly a way of navigating your way through the world, finding the quickest way to go from point A to point B, take a look at the roads along the way. However, the Google car has gone around and taken pictures of the sides of the roads in so many places. Not where I live, but in a lot of places. And I'm sitting there thinking, with Hurricane Sandy, how would I put things into perspective for students? Well, one of the harder hit areas in New York was Coney Island. And so by using Google Maps, I could zero right in on a road within Coney Island and drag out the little Street View man, take a look around, and this is what Coney Island looked when the Google car went through. And as a result of what's going on, people are posting publicly to the web through another Google service called Picasa Web some of the pictures that they're taking as they take a look and document the damage. And what a real contrast between what they're doing, what Coney Island used to be and what it is right now. It just puts the whole concept of the hurricane going through into perspective. Very humbling experience. Now, since Google has all of these images and pictures and resources at their disposal, it'd be kind of neat if it pulled it all together. And they actually have in the resource called the World Wonders Project. And you go to World Wonders, there are two ways that you can browse it. You can browse by location, which starts out by taking you through the continent, and then within the continent you zero in on a country and zero in on a particular location. In this case, I grabbed a screenshot of what they have at the Rideau Canal. If you're not interested in searching that way, you can certainly search and browse by themes. And I did a screen capture of the themes over here. Archaeological sites, historical sites, palaces and castles. You want to go to Versailles or so on. Just an incredibly rich resource. Oops. And I actually had one of the resources up there, however I seem to have lost it. So we'll just continue on over here. So the World Wonders Project. If you're looking for a little icebreaker for your staff, for your students, and so on, you might want to take a look at a Google a Day. Google a Day, essentially what they do is they put together a little puzzle. So in this case, if you take bus number 919 from Deshingman, travel to Donju Village, da 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 da. What ticket would you gain entry to? Okay. Kind of a neat concept. Once the question appears on the screen, a little countdown timer goes in there to find out how long it takes you to actually form a Google search and find the answer to it. And you play for little points. If you have a Google account, when you log into it, it keeps track of it and so on. So if you are looking for something to motivate and make people a better searcher, hey, try Google a day. This is absolutely the only way to go. Once you start working with Google Docs, or you start to work with any resource on the web where they have huge URLs, you're going to want to be able to shorten them so that you can make it available to anybody to get there easily. And by anybody, I'm envisioning taking this URL, which would take me to a document I'm going to show you in a second, and writing that on a blackboard and having success with grade 9 students being able to type that in correctly, uppercase, lowercase, and so on. Don't forget that little dash and so on. And I think we've all seen bit.ly shorteners, or we've seen tiny URL shorteners. Well, Google has their own, and so if I take this, I can shorten it to goo.gl, so Google/YGX or ZVI, and that goes to Google, which expands it and takes you to that particular document. And the Google URL shortener is available as a website. You just go there and paste your URL into this location. Or if you are using the Google shortener extension over here, and click and pull this down for a second, I've got a resource to my web page. I can copy it, get some details of it, or if I really wanted a QR code, you know, those little fancy 150 by 150 pixel characters to have people scan with their phone and go there, it will create a QR code for me, and I can just post that. People take a picture of it, and it takes you to the site. So you don't even have to type URL. Of course, they have to have something to take a picture of and so on. So very powerful way of navigating through. Great big long URLs if you want them shortened. Take a look at it. Neat concept. If you are in search of lesson plans, this is an awesomely powerful repository of free resources. Google has a whole section of their enterprise devoted to Google in education, and one of their jobs is to, or one of their resources is to go through and put together all kinds of lesson plans. And let me see if I can flip over here. Okay, so Google in education. Somebody had indicated that they might be interested in mathematics resources. And so if I come through here, come on here, and I'm interested in doing a lesson plan search, and maybe I'm interested in mathematics, and I'm dealing with secondary school students. I'll take a look at this, and I've got all kinds of resources, lesson plans ready to go and take a look at them. And surprisingly enough, if you take a look at that link, it will actually take you to a file sitting in a Google Drive. At that point in time, that lesson plan can be viewed, saved, printed, the whole bit. The neat thing about saving it, it now becomes part of your Google Drive, and then you have the ability to go through and edit it, refine it, and make it your own. Part of the problem you run into sometimes when you're dealing with these things is that the content will be very American, and you may want to take that out and make it a little bit more Canadian. And certainly once it's in Google Drive, you own it. You can make it whatever it is you want to do. Okay? And while you're there, take a look at all of the other resources. There may come a time when you end up with Chromebooks in your classroom, what are the types of resources that will help you get off. At the ECHO conference, both Ottawa and Waterloo have talked about using Chromebooks in the classroom as pilots. They're relatively inexpensive devices. It looks like you're working in a Google browser or the Google Chrome browser, only you're working inside a whole online operating system where you have the best of all of Google sitting in there. And I've got to give kudos to Peter Beans, absolutely wonderful educator in the Niagara District. He has on the web the ultimate guide to Google. He calls it Google A to Z. And I've shortened it and given you a Google address. And what Peter has done, and let me just flip back over to my browser. What Peter has done is he's taken any resource anywhere that could be tied into Google, and he's put them all together in one document. And it's actually, guess what? It's a Google document. And so if you come over to it, you can make that yours just by heading over to the File menu. Download it, do whatever it is that you want to do with it. There are all kinds of resources there. Right now there are 2 other people taking a look at it, so hopefully it's 2 people in this course who's taking a look at the particular resource. There's a question over here from Tanya Lynn, the address to it. Well, it was this great big one. That is actually Peter's document, and I shortened it so that it becomes this. So goo.gl/YG, capital Z, capital V, capital I. And that will take you to Peter's document on the web. So if you get bored with saying, well, gee, I just want this, I just want that, maybe I'm interested in the whole shooting match, Peter has put them all together. In one document. Is that you, Louise?
Doing what?
Somebody just clicked over to a web tour.
Oh, whoop. There. Sorry about that.
Okay, no problem. Hey, what else could go wrong tonight? Okay, so if you are looking for the ultimate list in Google stuff, it's right here. If you find anything, drop Peter an email at his Gmail account or on Twitter at @pbeans, and he adds these things right away. This is, without a doubt, the best collection of everything Google that I've seen. So if you are interested in that sort of thing, absolutely take a look at Peter's list. Okay? And then finally, if you want to get a hold of me afterwards, as I indicated at the beginning, I'm willing to help you out as you try to explore some of the things that are through there. My email address, doug@dougpeterson.ca, goes wherever it happens to be. To be honest with you, it gets forwarded to a Gmail account, and I read it from there. I'm on Twitter at DougPete, and then you can see those other things in there if you're interested in my blog. The resources over there. I do have a PD wiki where I put together all the workshop resources and so on that I've done over the years, and so on. And if you're interested in my Google Plus page, there's a link to it there as well. Okay, I really apologize for the power thing. I know that I was sitting here thinking, geez, what do I do now? I was actually in the process of considering tethering my computer to my cell phone when power came back on and I was able to get back in there. So I apologize for the inconvenience, but and we did kind of speed things up to get through to the end of it, but I think we finished right on time. Louise, Syria, back to you.
Syria's going to say the goodbyes, but I'll say a quick thank you to everyone and for being so patient through poor Doug's power outage, which was, I'm sure, much worse for him than it was for us. And I'll remind everyone that the OTF Connects website will have all these links, as well as the link to this recording, available to you usually within 1 to 2 days from now, but also